order. This is for the Regional District 12 Public District hearing. So where's Mr. Croft? Hello. You ready to do your little spiel? Oh, actually, we don't need to do attendance for this.
Probably should.
Can we just do a quick attendance, actually?
You want me to do attendance, Jen?
Yeah. I'm happy. Usually people tell me I have to be more quiet, so I'm happy to be louder. Happy to, yeah. Can somebody take attendance or should I guess?
I can take attendance.
Sure, okay. Joe Abdella?
Here.
John Boniuto?
Here.
Greg Kava is not here. Stephanie Kolnick is on
Here.
Zoom.
Here.
I think she's here. Hi. Angela?
Here.
Alex?
Here.
Naughton is here. Justin?
Here.
I am here. Jane is on Zoom, I believe. Yes, she is. Julie's on Zoom. Hi, Julie. Pete Tagley
Here.
and Mary Weber.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. So go for it, Mike.
I think he said that we need the readings. Let me see if I can finish it.
Say that again.
Are you working off of?
I'm working off of this one,
The budget hearing.
the budget hearing, where you have to read this, the notice.
That's the one I was looking to read.
Yeah, take it.
Oh, that's perfect.
I was a little confusing with all the agendas that were sent.
Yeah.
So Greg and I kind of talked a little bit, and so the first one that we're working off of, does everyone found it? Is that what he's supposed to be reading?
Yeah.
This. This is what Greg said to me. So
No, there actually wasn't. The script. I thought that'd be supported.
let's see here. Did you get the script? Hold on. Do you have
I
it?
found, let me see.
Did Debbie email that one? Because I don't see it in our email.
Let me check.
You looking for the agenda?
No, we're
No,
looking
there's
for
a
the
Script
script
that Mike is supposed to read.
to be
Oh.
read.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah,
Did you,
hold on. What is that?
it's the agenda.
No.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah. I got two.
hold on. Is this it?
It's under the tab budget.
That's what I'm looking. Is it that,
It's the first page in
this, which one?
that. On the top of that email, there was the two.
Yep, I see that in the budget hearing.
On that, it should be the first.
Right, but there's a long script
Yeah.
that, where is it? Can you show it to Mike maybe then? So he can read it? Let me see it.
This here.
No,
That's
that's the
not
one I
it?
thought it was. too.
Oh, okay.
No.
Sorry.
That's okay. That's the one he said that was supposed to be read. Is there something different? Hmm. I can't hear you. Right. So is this what,
Okay.
so that's all Mike has to read? Okay, great. So Mike, that is what you have, just that little part for the, thank you, Nicole.
Both.
Yep. Perfect. So that is it.
Right here like this, Ben? All right. Notice Chippewa Valley Regional School District 12 Public Budget Hearing. Notice is hereby given that a budget hearing for Regional School District 12 will be held in the library of the Chippewa Valley School, 159 South Street, Washington, Connecticut, on Monday, March 27th, 2023 at 7 p.m.
Thanks, Mike. Okay, Alex, the overview of the presentation of the budget.
Yes, where would you like me to do that from? Can we go up to the dais?
What do you think, Ben? I think probably best.
Where do you want me, Ben?
You can be right here.
You're all set. Thank you.
Good evening. I would like to introduce the superintendent's budget for the school year 2023-2024. As we all are well aware, we've had some serious headwinds this past year. Inflation has been running around 8%. Many items in the budget are fixed by contracts, service agreements, etc. Roughly 97% of the budget is set this way. Teachers' salaries and benefits constitute about 75% of the budget. Also, debt service is a large component. Currently, we are waiting for the state to do their final audit in the agri-science construction. This can take up to 3 years. They will then reimburse us the balance of the construction costs due us. One other major expense is the building repairs to our aging facilities. We are experiencing a growth in population. COVID has relocated many new families to Region 12, and they're ending their children in our schools. We offer an outstanding program. The program for the students is our primary concern. The budget cuts, this budget does not cut into it at all. Actually, there are some new programs. One of the elementary school's new programs will be foreign language. Also, Chapag will be using the refurbished planetarium and the TV studio. We will be broadcasting many of the athletic events. Just as a side note, we can't do the plays because of copyright laws. So we can't be broadcasting those. Also, the multi-age program that was instituted at the Burnhams when the enrollment was way down will be discontinued. The Bridgewater enrollment numbers are now healthy again. This will require the addition of new staff at the schools as the schools grow in size. Several ways we are reducing costs is the addition of solar, hopefully in all 4 locations. There will be no additional cost to the region. Also, we're looking into self-insurance with a consortium of other schools. This will reduce our expenses. The budget has gone through many stages. First, principals and department heads were asked to present their individual budgets. They were asked to try and keep their budgets flat. After the first go around, the budget had an over 11% increase. After initial review, these numbers were cut to 8.07%, including the revenue from the agri-science program. Then further review, the budget was reduced to 5.43% increase. Then Mark and Nicole were able to reduce the numbers further to 4.99%. The Finance and Operations Committee wanted to get the number below 5. The weekend before March 6th presentation of the budget, Mark and Nicole spent the weekend and were able to reduce the number to 4.67%. Compared with other towns and districts in the state, this increase currently puts us in the lowest third in the state. By the time all towns and districts have reported, we are hoping to be in the bottom quarter. Finally, I want to stress that the budget does not affect the quality of education that we are offering our students. Programs are strong and diverse. The 4.67% increase allows us to meet our needs and to be financially responsible. One issue that has come up after March 6th presentation is the new book line items. Several parents contacted board members with their concerns. After further review, line items were added back into the budget to purchase books for the 4 schools. $1,000 for each of the elementary schools and $6,000 for Chapag. It should be noted that Chapag, not all books from last year have been put out due to lack of space. The librarians will have to cull through old books and eliminate those that are not being used and where there's multiple copies. Just so there's no confusion about the book budget, textbooks, et cetera, are covered under a different line item. Also, the total library budget, excluding these new books, is $288,000. That is $31,428 in digital media, which the students tend to prefer. There is $8,167 for equipment and supplies, and finally, just under $250,000 for staffing. The superintendent's budget can be found at the district's website. And that is my report.
Thank you, Alex. So here we're gonna let the public speak and then we'll do that. So now we're going to allow for public comment. Should we start in the room and then we'll start on Zoom? So if somebody wants to come up and just say their name, if you want to join. Great, come on up to the podium.
I don't need that.
You sure? Well, no, it's not.
Huh?
I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Davine Verstandig. I've been here 45 years. 3 children graduated from Chappaq. I'm a retired English professor from the University of Connecticut. And my former husband, Peter Frisbee, was the art teacher for 40 years in the 3 primary schools. So it is of great concern to me on a number of issues to see the reduction of the allotment for library. Now, I see you put $1,000 back. Chappaq Valley was at 15,000 and each of the others were 2,500. I understand what people are saying about digital, but there is also some excitement that happens when a child comes to the library and is aware that there are new books, new discoveries. And for that, I took a couple of quotes from the superintendent's introduction. In the opening, he said, quote, "A budget, defining a budget, is more than a series of numbers. It is an embodiment of our values." And I think this is what we need to remember. Our values in this community are quite unique. There's a sense throughout the community that we are advocates for both public and private education. Many of the students who graduate from Chappaq may have had a few years at a private school or vice versa. And this is true of 2 of my 3 children. The community is unique. And I understand the superintendent is new. And that's why I thought it was rather an audacious move to put initially a 0 for library books for these school libraries without quite understanding what this community values. Also, there was a quote in that introduction stating that we intend to maintain exemplary schools and provide world-class education. Well, I'm not sure that that can happen only in a digital world. The essence of book is more than digital. Books are actually a work of art. They're tactile. they bring a sense that does not happen digitally to young children. I'd like you to just remember that. Also, I just had a couple questions that perhaps somebody sometime will reflect on and answer. Why is a US history teacher paid $172,000 and a US English teacher is paid $120,000? I know at the university that professors who teach business make probably almost twice what those of us who were in the English department. But on this level, I was quite shocked by that. Also, I really, as a parent of one of my children who were special ed for years, I was also just found it discouraging that some of the reductions of supplies were made. And lastly, the fact that the athletic banquet is $2,000 more than the academic banquet, I found sort of distressing. And the fact that if you take the total of the academic and the athletic, that's 6,000. And that's more than what we would have had for the primary school library. So there's some discrepancies, and I realize I've been around a long time. And somebody said, well, sort of old guard. Well, I am here as old guard because this is a very unique community, as I said, with a focus on educational values. And I'm not a numbers person. I'll be the first to say that. But I am an idealist, I'm an educator, and I'm bringing forth, hopefully, that some understanding that we don't let this kind of thing continue, whether it's the music, whether it's art, and library funding. The arts are what saves lives. Art saves lives. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? Yes.
Good evening, board members, Dr. Goslin, and community members. My name is Joan Temple, and I'm a Roxbury resident. Full disclosure, I'm also a librarian, and I am passionate about the power of books. I see that although the $0 were originally proposed for the school libraries, that it's been changed, and now there are $1,000 for each of the elementary schools and $6,000 for Chippewa. Although this is a step in the right direction, it's still inadequate for a region that considers itself exemplary. In discussing this issue with friends and family, listening to their concerned questions, and reading the school library fact sheet that was published on the Business Office webpage, I realized that there are many misconceptions that I hope I can help to clear up a little bit. One, students and teachers use books in the school library, but they don't necessarily check those books out. So circulation statistics are not always a good measure of usage. Teachers grab the latest and greatest book of poetry to spontaneously use in a classroom, or a student who is unable to participate in PE for the day sits and reads manga in the library for his class period. Those books aren't checked out. Frequently, teachers bring their classes to the library to explore books related to their research topics. And although they may take notes in the library and spend a lot of time with the books, those books don't get checked out. They don't appear in the circulation statistics. 2, technology does not negate the need for physical books in education. During COVID, our libraries invested in digital books to meet the needs of our at-home students. Region 12 does have a school library subscription to Overdrive, but this does not give kids access to millions of books as purported in the fact sheet. I just checked the Chapag catalog and the library catalog, and I see that Region 12 students have access to 917 ebooks and 342 audiobooks. That translates to right around 1.5 digital books per student in our district. The average cost of an ebook is between $60 and $80 per license. And usually licenses from major publishers expire in 2 years or after 26 borrows. They're not permanent books that we own. This means that a really popular book can only be read by about 1/4 of one class. The company used by Region 12 school libraries for the purchase of physical books, Ingram, is able to ship books, physical books, within a day or two with no shipping fees and at a 40% discount from retail costs. These books are covered, processed, and ready to shelf. 3, the fact sheet claims that the digital media budget for libraries is $31,428. This is misleading. Digital subscriptions other than Overdrive provide educational platforms used in all classrooms and across the whole district. They are managed by the Chapag Library to decrease the cost of having 4 subscriptions from 4 separate schools and to streamline access and maintain student and user accounts. An example of an educational subscription is Newsella, a platform that allows teachers and students to access news articles at different reading levels. Another is Swank, a service that provides full-length movies for use in classrooms. These resources should not be confused with library materials. 4, if you go to one of our school libraries, you may see a cart or 2 of unprocessed books. There are several reasons for this. Donated books and books ordered from companies other than Ingram need to be covered, cataloged, and processed one by one. Sadly, our part-time library clerks have precious little time to accomplish these tasks because they are assigned myriad outside duties like recess and lunch. They barely have time to reshelf the hundreds of books returned to them each week. They also have virtually no time to conscientiously weed their collections, which is why it appears on paper that schools have more than the average number of books in their collections. A better measure might be to look at how many of those books were published in the past 10 years. If you want welcoming, organized, vibrant libraries, the library staff needs dedicated time to do their jobs. 5, at Chapag, there are many free reading projects in both middle school and high school. Individual academic departments do not have the time, funds, or access to Ingram to obtain books kids want in a timely manner. Few have classroom libraries, as they've always relied on the responsiveness of their school libraries. Also, books purchased by individual departments or programs such as professional education are then not easily accessible to teachers or students in other schools. Books purchased through the library can be searched for in a catalog that is accessible to parents, students, and teachers 24/7. An example is the relatively new botanical drawing class. The library purchased books to support the curriculum, but those books are also available to science students, ag students, or even parents and community members who want to learn more. Books squirreled away in an administrative office or remote classroom are not cataloged and are therefore not used to their full potential. 6, in addition to free reading assignments, there are countless reasons why students ask librarians to order particular books. To learn more about a life issue affecting them at the moment, such as a health condition, bullying, depression, or anxiety, family discord, or the death of a loved one. Today's students need access to books in a timely manner to better understand their own lives. And remember, many of our students are from homes where they can't afford to purchase their own books. Here are some common scenarios of how library books are used, new library books. A senior project student is committed to building a chicken coop and needs a how-to manual. Or a student is rebuilding a 1968 Ford Mustang 428 Cobra Dread and needs the original owner's manual. A reluctant middle school teacher or reader has finally discovered a series by James Patterson that he absolutely loves, and he started reading and super excited about getting the newest book in the series. A sophomore doing the History of project who wants to delve into the history of artificial intelligence so that she can better understand ChatGPT today. An Ag STEM student who wants to learn more about agroponics. Remember, our Ag STEM program is new. Books are needed on topics such as butchering, welding, and horse care. A 7th grade student, special education student, let's say, or several, needs a book on the Renaissance, but that's written on a 3rd grade level. And what about our kindergartners who are just starting to read picture books? If you are the parent of a reader, you know what our little ones devour the wonderful new books being published today, many of which reflect their own lives and circumstances. The American Library Association recommends a budget allocation of $15 per student per year for new books to ensure currency and vitality of the school library collection. For Region 12, that translates to a minimum of $12,300 that should be earmarked for books every year. So I hope you will take these issues and facts into consideration as you talk about the budget later this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else who would like to speak? Here? How about, can we do? Where? Oh, just.
Good evening. My name is Jess Farm. Excuse me. I'm from Washington, and I'm here tonight to ask you to reconsider losing or cutting, I guess it's not really cutting, the one of the teachers at WPS. My daughter is in the 1st grade class, going into the 2nd grade class, where the teacher, we would be losing that teacher. And I just want to talk to you guys a little bit and hopefully express how upset some of the parents in that class are. Take you guys back to COVID when REACH kept getting pushed back. We're going to start in October. Nope, now we're going to start REACH in November. Now all of a sudden we're starting REACH in December. And now we're not going to have REACH at all. And those kids came into kindergarten at a huge disadvantage. I know that cuts were made everywhere. Everybody had to make the best decision. And I can't imagine having to be sitting on the board making those choices. But these kids, they really came in at a huge disadvantage, and they're just now starting to catch up. And I think some of them are still really struggling. And so as a parent of one of those children, I'm having a hard time with the board saying, it's fine, they're going to be fine. Because you know what, they're really not. Like, and they need to have the support that's needed to get them back to the level that they should have been at. And so, sorry, I'm really emotional, but I'm just asking you guys to relook at that and talk to the people who are involved before you cut that position. Thank you.
Is there anybody else here who would like to speak? Then do we have the opportunity? Do we have the capability? Yeah. If anybody on Zoom would like to speak, can you just, what is it, raise a hand on that?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
in the reactions tab.
Something like that? A virtual hand raise? Anyone? Yes, no? Going once? Twice? I just want to make sure I give everybody the opportunity to speak who would like to. So I just want to make sure. Okay. All right. So now we get to adjourn this meeting and then we hop on to another one. So do I get to use a special gavel? Okay.
Go ahead.
Thank you so much, Alex. I'm gonna bring this thing home. I'm sure Scott would love it. Yeah, I'm sure. Oh, okay. Okay.
Hi, I couldn't find the hand. Took me
Can we hear?
took me a minute to find the hand. So
Sorry.
I just wanted to see if you were gonna read amongst yourselves the comments that the parents sent in. If so, I don't have to talk. You know, the survey that you had sent with the questions and the comments relating to the budget.
Yeah, you can share that.
Can you, are you gonna share those through email or how are we gonna get those?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fine.
Thank you for doing that. Yes.
Okay, no problem.
So we will get emails of that to everybody. That's good.
But we didn't see them.
Yeah, we didn't see them, right?
We
Yeah.
wouldn't see them till after, right?
Well, the process is still ongoing, so
Oh.
because it becomes your budget.
Just want to
and
make
then-
sure we saw it before we did anything.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you.
Jen, you're muted. I don't know if you can hear me.
All right, Stephanie, did you say something?
You were muted. We couldn't hear you.
So we're going to, do I need to call another attendance again? Good. Okay, great. Because we're all here. No one left. So we're going to call this meeting to order. And we are going to now discuss the budget for the 23-24. And now it's our turn to chat. Yes, Alex, did I say something
I'd like
wrong?
to make a motion to approve the budget for 2023, 2024. Make sure that it includes the one.
Make sure that it includes the addition of $9,000 to the book line, other than the budget that was physically handed out on the 6th.
So moved, seconded? Okay, now we can discuss.
Now we discuss.
Thanks, Alex. All right, who's gonna jump in first? Wow, can't be me.
Jen, can I
No,
ask?
I don't know. Stephanie.
Better hand.
Good.
I
right.
just want to.
Can we hear her?
I don't know. Can anyone hear me? Yeah, no?
Yep.
Okay. I just want to circle back to what Sierra said for a second, because I forgot that there were obviously survey submissions. And I'd like to know how many of those we got, because there were even some public comments tonight of issues that I hadn't discussed with parents before. So if there's anything like new or enlightening, I'd like to hear those before we discuss, because I don't want to hear it after the fact if there's a potential for vote tonight. Is that possible?
No, like reading them makes a lot of sense because of the way that they kind of are packaged. Like I can share them now, people to view, unless you really want to go through and read them all. But
I just want to take a second to review it. I mean, I guess that's fine if to read it, but.
And I don't know that anyone who filled this out intended this to be a public statement they're making either.
I don't think we want to make it necessarily public, but I think it is helpful for the board to be able to read the comments from parents.
Yeah.
Were there a lot of comments? Did you get a substantial amount?
No.
There's just a handful we could read it.
Total, and the bulk of those just came in the last day or so.
Okay.
So we had 3 coming into like the weekend.
So are they being emailed right now to all
Yeah.
of us?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry.
Okay.
So they're being emailed with as we speak?
Yep.
We're all just looking for the email, just so everyone
Mine
knows.
just showed up.
Yep.
It disappeared.
Would anybody else on the board like to take a moment to ask questions?
I have a question.
Justin?
Do I have to hit unmute?
Yes.
Yeah.
Let me just get the right line item. Hang on 1 second. All right, well, I forget where it is and I'll look for it later. I did see that the district-wide summer curriculum is cut by $4,800. So I'm just wondering, well, why?
So in terms of district-wide curriculum, again, when we build the budget, we get requests from the curriculum department, from our school buildings themselves. So if those requests weren't there, that would be the reason why. I don't know that there was any action on certain central office part to cut or reduce that particular area. Nicole, do you have any recollections different from that? For summer supplies, I can see if I can find in the budget here what line it is.
No, and I'm also just wondering, I mean, I'm sure we have like a 5-year plan for curricula to be revised. So, I mean, there's got to be some that are being worked on over the summer.
So it really depends, Justin, what you're asking. So summer curriculum stipends would be different than supplies to run like a summer school program. So I need to know exactly kind of what the ask is, but yes, there is ongoing curriculum work that does happen during the summertime, and that would come out of the curriculum budget. Oh, if you find it, go circle back to it.
Are you still looking, Justin? Okay, take your time. Do you have another question while you're looking?
Yes, but I can't.
Do you want me to hold off a little bit? Go to someone else? Does somebody else have a question while Justin is looking? Anyone? Because
Oh, I found it. It's on page 10
great.
for professional development. I mean, I'm not really quite sure what my question is. It's more just like I'm a little bit shocked that we're cutting that by $4,800. That's all.
And you are looking for an explanation of
Yeah.
the cut.
Can I take that? Just from the notes that I have from the professional development budget. There was, in that line in the prior year, there was professional development for Chippewa Valley for the new schedule for $5,000. So that was reduced because the new schedule was implemented this year.
Oh, okay.
Thanks, Nicole. Anybody else have questions at the moment before I jump in? So I would like to ask about the cut of the teacher at Washington Primary School. I don't know if there's somebody that can help explain that or talk with us a little bit about that.
So what I've learned since I've come here is that that position was instituted by Megan Bennett as a 1-year position 2 years ago. That position was then renewed for an additional year With the understanding that that was supposed to expire at the end of the year. And so that's where we are today. So if we're going to add that back in, it would be another renewal of this one-year position for another year. And ultimately, the use would be, I guess, to try to reduce that class size. The class size is underneath our district guideline, which is 25 per class. And so if we would want to reintroduce that, again, that would come to us at a pretty significant cost. So we have a couple of options. One is we can add in an FTE, which would certainly bring the budget north of where it sits today. Or if the need is to have another adult in the room to support children, then we could look at something like a paraprofessional, which would cost substantially less if that is the actual need in that classroom. But that's my understanding of that position was that that position was always meant to be temporary, and it keeps kind of getting pulled back into the budget year over year. And so again, as we're forced with looking at places that we can free up money to introduce new programs, support the ones that we have, and also come in at a budget that the board can live with, that was one of the areas that we looked at, and no longer continuing that, since this grade is now rising to a point where they should hopefully be on the road to being able to work together as a learning community of students at this point in their school careers. But if, again, the need is still there are some options.
I just want to back up my question 1 second, Mary. So the question that I have is that what data do we have to support the need for no longer having the second teacher? So if there was a need for there to be 2 classrooms for those grades in kindergarten and first grade, just asking, it's kindergarten and first grade, right? That they were 2 classrooms, and so they're going into second, what? I don't get me in trouble. I get in trouble. But my point is that if we're deciding to have the class come back together as to 1, and there was a need prior by Megan Bennett or the principal or whoever, I just would like to know what the decision was, not just that we could lose a teacher because they're fine, but I'd like to know what the data is to support why they can now go into 1 classroom. Is that's just a reasonable, that's just want to know that.
Let's add to that, how many children will be in second grade at Washington Primary?
So
Microphone, 22 students, right?
Yeah.
22 students.
22, so,
Yeah.
okay. Well,
Oh, right there.
So I guess for me, I would like to just have some information about why the classroom can come back together if there was a need for it for the 2 years prior.
So I think the way we look at it is almost the inverse, right? So what's the ongoing need to maintain that? And as we see the students' academic and behavioral progress that's being made, it looks like that this was the time to be able to make that move. This move was supposed to happen last year, and it was kind of a, hey, can we just do it for 1 more year? We did it for the 1 more year, and if this is something that we're going to live with moving on, I think that's a decision we'll have to make. But again, we're looking at this and saying we have a class that's, borderline in terms of class size. Washington always has slightly larger classes. And as we look across the district and where our growth areas are, we thought that was a sensible place to be able to maybe pick up some of those funds to use to help offset costs.
Mary.
How many children are there in Roxbury and Bridgewater in second grade for next year?
That's a great question.
Let me see if I have that. Information. I had a sheet that I was trying to grab on the way up the door, and then I had a phone call. That kind of
While you're looking that up, I'll just make a comment.
I know that we have 16 kindergartners alone. And I can't remember that class overall at Burnham would be 37 students in that classroom is right now, which is a large number of kids in a small space. Trying to
You need your microphone.
meet the needs of three separate curriculums, all in 1 year, to make sure those kids get that education.
So then how many students are going to be in Burnham second grade, Nicole?
So I have 11 rolling into this is the enrollment numbers we know of today. Obviously it changes from now until September. We have 11 rolling into second grade at Burnham, 15 rolling into second grade at Booth, and then 21 rolling into second grade at Washington Primary.
21.
11, 15, and 21.
Mary.
I want to teach you back in for the second grade, because that just wouldn't be fair for the other schools to have such a low number of children and Washington Primary to have to stick it out with 22. That's not fair.
Mary, you have to put your microphone on.
I would like the teacher to be reinstated for Washington Primary, because I don't see where that would be fair to make 22 children in a class in Washington and 11 in one class in one of the other schools and 15 in another one, and ours have 22. So I would say that we should put the full-time teacher back in and split the second grade at Washington Primary.
So I guess the question that is that I feel like there's not a lot of information for me to be able to make the decision, but I will say, and I'm certainly not an educator, but I know that if I keep thinking about COVID, right? And the opportunity that has been lost for a lot of students. And I know that a lot, and correct me if I'm always wrong, but at the younger age, it's better for them to be able to have the divided classrooms. And then as they get older, which is going into 4th and 5th grade, maybe then that's the opportunity to bring the class together into one. If there is need for this class in particular to be divided into two, and I'd love to explore that, because just saying that it's time, if there was need for there to be two classrooms, it's not that it just was clearly a need. And so I don't want to dismiss that need, because we are. And if we're bringing teachers to schools, in the elementary schools, I would hate to see us cut one teacher at Washington Primary School out from real reason, real data support that they should be divided into two. So I'm kind of very on. This is a new for me.
And just for point of clarification, it's a 1 year over and over, so you have to decide every year whether or not to renew that teacher. So it's not.
But it is, you're taking the first, it will be one class next year.
Sure, right.
Yeah, right, okay. So let's bring the class into two for the second for Washington Primary School. I don't know how we do that tonight, but Pete, do you have something you want to say? Microphone, do you have your microphone on?
John, show him how to play microphone.
I beat you then.
So we have a class of students who, when they came in, again, they came in typical class size for us at Washington.
Typical class
but-
size for us at Washington.
Around 20, so we were at 22 in that class, right? I'm not sure how many kids right now are kids who are outside of Washington that are involved in that class, but we'll just assume for the sake of argument, they're all are Washington kids. And that class had some needs with school readiness coming out of COVID. And so the idea was that Megan said, hey, for this first year of school, we'll divide them into two smaller classes, and that'll help with them as they come out of this COVID year. 1 year went by, and then the request was made again, well, can we extend it for one more year? And at that point, Megan said, but this is it, and this class, that position comes out, as the kids move on, they're going into 3rd grade. And so we're just at the point now where we have to look at this and say, do we want to continue to add this or not? Adding that position back in will bring the budget to 5.26. So if we want to go there, that's certainly fine.
But what I'm saying is, There's nothing wrong with spending money if there's a necessity.
Need.
So my issue is there a necessity? I'm not looking at reducing the budget because we can make it work in financial area.
Sure.
My issue is there an educational necessity
Microphone.
for doing this? I don't have. So. God. I'm on a microphone now. Can you hear me better than you could hear me before?
Yes.
Okay. So as my issue is, which I just repeated, is what necessitates this? Is there a necessity for this to happen? Not a necessity because we want to lower the budget. Forget about lowering the budget. Let's talk academically. Is there an academic need for this?
So, I mean, is Emily still here?
She is.
So Emily, I kind of ask you to speak to that. I know we've had some conversations around it. And I guess the point that we're trying to wrestle with is at what point is it no longer academically necessary, right? And or behaviorally. Again, we look at good student performance, we look at, the behavioral information. So I guess, Emily, maybe you can help us understand the unique needs of that class.
Yes, please, Emily.
I have an emergency call.
Did you see Stephanie's hand? What? Did you?
Thank you. So I'll start just by one clarifying feature. So the class was actually a full kindergarten class so they were combined as kindergartners. They did have the disadvantages of not having the full pre-K experience. They did come in with some self-regulation concerns. They didn't have a lot of practice sharing, playing with one another, making those kind of social decisions. It was a classroom that really needed support, both with their emotional growth as well as the academic. So in talking with Superintendent Bennett, we determined that this year we would split them into 2 classes and see if we can create, classroom climates that were really highly supportive of their emotional growth as well as academic. So we have found that actually was a good choice on our part. Monies were not actually in that budget, but they were sort of negotiated throughout the summer to come up with a salary that we could do that with. So it was a 1-year position. We do understand at Washington Primary School that the numbers, we typically do not have classrooms that small, and that our hope was to put them together for 2nd grade. I will say that I see progress. I did talk to, Dr. Goslin about this. Yes, we could put them together and we will still have to continue to support their emotional growth and their academic growth. Ideally, in the perfect world, we'd love to keep them apart for 1 more year and then merge them for 3rd because that number seems sustainable for 3rd grade. So I think to have evidence like data on emotional growth is really difficult. But I do think that they've made some positive strides. They've become more self-regulated, more confident as learners, and their skills are progressing. So I'm not really prepared to share any other data with you, but hopefully that gives you a little bit of information. Okay, thanks.
I would just say
I was a similar situation as for my
they were together
school,
and they were
together,
24 students
and there were about 23 to 24 students in class, and then they separated grade, 2nd grade, and then they brought back together for 3rd, 4th, and 5th, or even I just think 4th and 5th. And so as a parent, I can tell you that was a huge benefit to all of the students in that, for that opportunity. And I'm not looking at budget. I'm looking at what's best for the students first and foremost. So I appreciate Pete Tagley's point is that as mindful of, we need to make sure that education, we're doing what's right first. Bottom line. So anybody else have anything that they want to? I know, Stephanie, did you want to speak?
Yeah, sorry. I know I went up and down a few times.
Here she
And
goes.
can you hear me? Yeah, okay, good. Yeah, unfortunately, the feed on my end is like really delayed, so I may be missing some information here. But if someone could just clarify for me, there are two classes that are currently split into two, correct? There is it first grade and second grade? Kindergarten currently is one class. So the class we're talking about is first grade going into second grade, the younger group. Yes? Yeah.
That's correct.
Okay, thanks, sorry. And can you give me the numbers for both of those classes, both of those cohorts? I can't hear, sorry. I think you're muted.
So
Oh,
I've
there we
got
are.
21 rolling into second grade and 25 rolling into third grade.
And third grade is continuing to be split, correct?
Correct.
Okay, I mean, again, you know, without knowing the particulars of both of those classrooms, you know, I'd imagine that the younger, it is harder to have, and I think this was part of the discussion that came up earlier. Not only is it a COVID issue, but also it's more difficult to have a class of 22 kindergarten or first grade kids than it is to have a class of 22 fourth or fifth grade kids. So I do have a little bit of concern of that younger group that was also very specifically adversely affected by COVID, like splitting that group. Is there a reason why we picked one over the other, like the younger group versus the older group? Or was it just a function of 2 or 3 more students? You know, wondering what the status is of that older class as well.
So that younger class, again, was together initially, and then was subsequently split. And so that's why that's the class that's kind of in question. The other class had always been split because of the fact that they have 25. So they've just progressed as 2 sections all the way through. So that's really the rationale, was just it's the numbers of kids that we're looking at.
Right, yeah, so that was really more based on just the fact that there are 3 more students. I mean, it sounds like, and I get, you know, I'd absolutely defer to you and to Emily and to the administrators and staff in that building, but it seems like there has been a particular need for that classroom to be split, that those kids are getting a little more attentive or directed attention for some of the things that they were missing beyond academics. You know, if there's a way, I guess, you know, Emily mentioned before that position was a 1-year position that, again, like kind of keeps getting pushed off. But if there is a continued need for it and we found money in it in previous budgets, I just wonder, you know, is there a way to continue to make that another temporary position? Does it have to be folded? You know, I don't know how that affects benefits when you have a temporary position. Is there a difference in cost there?
So it's not a temporary position, right? So it's a 1-year contract, so that that's full salary and
Full
benefits as if they
benefits.
were a teacher with us in any other capacity. The I guess other consideration that we'd have to also think around is, you know, there's a benefit I think that makes sense to us on one level when we say, oh, small classes must be better. But there's also a drawback when you have a class of 10 kids too, right? In terms of quality of class discussion, of being able to do group work and projects, of balancing gender, and of having enough, you know, friends, you know, during the day and that type of thing. So I think we need to also just be mindful of the fact that, you know, unless something has changed dramatically in the few months that I've been here, I haven't heard that there is a, you know, new expectation to get every class down to 10 kids. In fact, lots of the conversations that I hear from folks is sometimes looking in the opposite direction, saying we want our students to have access to more friends and, you know, to be in slightly larger spaces. So I think that's the balance that we also try to wrestle with. So there's a too big, but there's also probably a too small as well.
And that position that would be moving to Burnham, which grade level would that be? Is that like in even second grade for second grade, or just wondering what the staffing needs are at Burnham, like which hole we're trying to fill?
So your question was breaking up a little bit there, but I think the biggest need at Burnham really is filling that K-2 band. So currently Burnham is a multi-age classroom where you have students in kindergarten, first and second together. Those students all combined is 37 students. When Burnham went to the multi-age model, that was during a time when they were looking at classes of like 4, 5, 6 students. And so when you put them together, we had a small overall class that was being serviced by the 2 teachers. Now those teachers are trying to work with 37 children in that space, which is a feat in and of itself. And I think the biggest drawback is the ability to meet the literacy demands and the numeracy demands of these early learners, and also ensure that they get a year's worth of education, a year's worth of time, because the Connecticut core is pretty rigorous, right? And so that's a very difficult task to simultaneously teach 3 curriculums at the same time and plan lessons across 3 curriculums. So it's definitely a yeoman's task in that sense. And if we go in that direction, that cohort then filters up into the next grade level band. And so it makes sense for us to look at unwinding that all the way around. This has been the #1 topic when we talk to parents from Burnham this year, is begging and pleading to move away from the multi-age model, that they don't feel that their children's social or academic needs are being met, and that they would really like us to consider doing something different, particularly where Burnham is now the same size as Booth, who doesn't have this model. So Booth is at 73 students, Burnham is at 72. Burnham also will have the largest kindergarten class once again coming into to the school, and is projected to be our growth area, and projected to grow at 30% over the next 10 years, where Washington's projected to shrink just about the same. And then we're looking at potential growth over in Roxbury of about 10% over that same time frame. So this is probably the time now to have the conversation about revisiting the solution that worked for Burnham under a very different context.
I'm also wondering if there's an opportunity, instead of completely breaking down the multi-age situation in Burnham, if we've got enough staff, if we're missing 1 teacher, just also looking at the numbers, like you said, 72 kids right now divided by 6 gets you to about 12 kids in a class, and I'm sure that's not equal across the board. It's not like that at Booth Free either. But is there an opportunity then to still have maybe 1 combined class, to bridge the gap for 1 year? Because again, that gets us down to some classrooms that are, 9 and 10 or so at each of the other schools. And then we've got 1 school with 2 classes that are 22 and 25. We're just kind of like piecing, it almost feels a little bit like we're sliding 1 puzzle piece to the other puzzle piece. I don't know if that opportunity has been explored. I don't know, what, if Dr. Ruse, had any input on that, or if that's been a consideration.
I mean, Dr. Ruse been involved in the conversation since day 1, and that has been certainly a consideration. One of the real challenges to do what you suggest is that the area that needs the most immediate attention is definitely that lower grade level band. We also have a secondary band there from the 3, 4, 5 that has 2 brand new teachers to the model. So if that's the one that's going to remain, you're also not reaping a lot of the reward of having a team that's done this for a long period of time. And so again, and then not to mention that group that's in that lower level band is going to move right into that band in short order. So it seemed like it was the time for us to look at the school all the way around. And it's a lot easier to have a school on 1 consistent model than have half of the school operating on 1 model and half on another. I don't know if Emily wants to weigh in. Is she still here? All right. But she has been certainly involved in these conversations, intimately involved in these conversations about which direction to go. And she has also been joining me in meetings with parents who are also advocating for a different option for their children.
Thank you.
Sorry. Thank you. Actually, all 3 would be for the at all 3 elementary schools. What are the numbers?
Just ask bigger.
Oh, you are we're in the same wavelength.
12 tuitioning into Burnham, 5 tuitioning into Booth Free, and 8 tuitioning into Washington Primary. Those are this year's numbers. 12, 5, and 8. And that's this year's numbers. We don't know what next year's numbers are yet.
Right.
Booth Free also has an additional child that's a staff child.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are two issues that go on here. One is education, the other is socialization. There's an advantage to being a larger class for socialization, but there's an advantage to being a smaller class for education. But as Mark pointed out, I mean, you need a certain number so that you can have 4 kids break out and do a project together. And so if the classes get too small, you know, then you can't do that. If they get too big, then you've got, I'm not being a proponent for either side. I'm just sort of stating the obvious, I think.
I think it's about the educational benefits. This is a class that needs to support educationally. And I think the way that they can, the teachers could have them,
right, by bringing them into different
right, by
classrooms.
bringing them into
But I think if there's an
different
education, have that class split them into 2, for me, at the secondary level.
have me, I think that's more important.
Yeah, we're not taking them out of the building. We're just, they're still going to be together for lunch and for most of the social things that they do.
And maybe there's an opportunity for them to break into groups.
Break into groups.
But if there's a social, if there's a
there's a social, if there's I would feel better if they had one more to be able to
do that.
At least, and we don't, and then we have to reassess it next year, right?
I think procedurally, what we need to do is have a motion to amend the budget and then take a vote on that,
But in terms of adding the additional.
whether we add that or not. I
And then
mean,
that makes it on the.
You said in the,
Well, or that's just.
to just what, that's just it. I think it's what.
So, somebody like to. I don't.
Mary, go for it. Mike.
I would like to add the a position for a teacher, a full-time teacher for Washington Primary for the 2nd grade.
Second?
Second.
Justin Pickett. All right. Raise your hand.
Oh, we have to be.
Oh, we have to be, do we have to discuss? Do we have another discussion before we? Please.
So we're talking about that, the teacher that we had, a 1-year contract, and then we did it at the end of next year to see if those students are up to where they should be.
Year to year.
Yeah, and I am absolutely all for if they need it like that. That's fine. I just want to make sure that we're all voting on the same thing. And then that is separate and distinct from Burnham. I'm not sure how Burnham got into this discussion, but Burnham is going back to the regular standard model of
Right.
6 teachers, K through 5.
They're, because they're adding.
They're.
Right, I understand that, but and the 2 are not. Okay, I just want to make sure that we're, that.
It has nothing to do with Burnham and this.
Yes, it did, because the Washington Primary teacher was supposed to go to Burnham. That's what it said back here.
No, that was.
No,
We're just talking about adding,
we're
classroom, the second
Right.
classroom,
adding
for second grade for 1 year, 1 year.
classroom, second,
And then we'll revisit.
and we.
I don't think I have to remind everyone that
this year's budget is historically very high, extremely high. As far as past budgets, I can't place it, but a 4.67 after tuition in is very troublesome. And we can't be everything to everyone. That's why with the library books, how can we keep adding to an already bloated budget? It's extremely troubling.
Sorry, Mary, I was.
Go for it.
Okay.
That's right.
I just like to share this. I'm glad that you brought that up on. This has been kind of troubling to me as well. I'm going through the budgets for the last 15 years, and I look at 2009 and 10, we had a 0% increase. 2010, 11, we had an increase of 1.10. The following year was 2.23. The following year was 0.46. 2 years after that, we had a negative 0.20 and then a negative 2.26. We're not asking a lot and haven't for 15 years. And I'm really, at this point, I am super frustrated that we are more concerned about, not concerned about education, more about other things. Today, it was like, no, we needed a new part-time person. Was that a no, not the truck. But now I'm talking about the student education, which is first and foremost. That's why I'm on the board first. I'm not worried about brick and mortar as much. I'm worried about books, teachers, and education. We have not asked for very much in 15 years, and it is about time that we do without apologizing. And I'm livid that we somehow feel that we need to still be mindful and never ask for a little bit more so that we actually can be and give our students what they deserve. An extra teacher is not a big deal. Consider that is an education. That's why we're here. First and foremost, looking back at the last 15 years, right, asking for more.
It's not a big deal.
Well, it seems like whenever there's got to be cuts, we don't really look at the maintenance or the things that we're adding for, you know, for the buildings and stuff. We look at what we're going to cut for the kids. I'm not for that. If I was going to cut anything from anywhere, it would have been from maintenance or from things that we were buying new for the school. That's where I would cut, not anything for the education of the children, ever. There's that one line that the transfer to the elementary CNR fund, it's $100,000. We could have cut that down to 50 if we needed to. Like, I don't go for taking away for educational things and not for maintenance things. That's where I would make cuts if I had to make cuts. And I don't think that when we have a cost of living at like an 8% increase and we're asking for a little over 5%, that's terrible. I just don't think it's a terrible thing. I don't think we have to keep it under 5%. If this is what we need.
So what's the dollar amount you're talking about? Give me a number. What's the dollar amount?
Are you talking about to add a teacher?
Yeah, that's what you're talking about, correct?
Yes. The dollar amount to add that teacher, we allocate $140,000.
I thought you were raising the roof over there. We advocate $140,000 per FTE that we have to add into the budget because we have to add in the salary of the teacher plus their benefits. And so doesn't mean the teacher makes $140,000, don't get us wrong, but that's the all-in cost, including the benefits.
And your opinion is that we could live without it, is what you're telling us. Mrs. Pody is saying, no,
we needed, we can't.
Well, I think Mrs. Judd also spoke to.
For you, it's not a necessity.
I think it would be nice to have. I think that we could make do if we.
Sorry, it'd be nice to have. I mean, who in their right minds would say, no, please don't give us more money for schools? But if we had to make do, we can make do. But there's other classes in Washington that have similar amounts of students. So it's not unprecedented. But again, I'm not going to say, please don't give us money. I mean, if people want to add more money, we asked for more initially. So, we would certainly welcome that. I think what we have to also be careful about, though, is just assuming that every time something goes to the budget, that it comes an automatic renewal and that we just keep, turning the crank every year and doing the same old thing. I am, to be honest, a little offended that people portrayed me earlier as being anti-books.
Yeah.
I'm married to a reading specialist, right?
So-
I've loved books my entire life. I've had to sit there and think about what I eat green eggs and ham on a boat with a goat. I love books. I read books to my children every day. We have books everywhere in my life.
Right.
So when we're saying, what we're talking about is new expenditures, and sometimes we have to make tough decisions because in my opinion, the best budget is a past budget, right? And then continue to build forward on these things.
You're assuming this is a one-year deal, is that correct? Or is it a permanent?
This was, well, that my concern is that was a one-year deal, that became a two-year deal. Now we're talking about making a three-year deal, so they become permanent deals. And if we're okay with that, then we're okay with that, right? But I think at the same time, if we always fall prey to what they call street lighting, right? You may have heard the story of the guy looking for his keys on his hands and knees underneath the street light. And the police says, "What are you doing?" He says, "I'm looking for my keys." The cop says, "Well, did you lose them over here?" He said, "No, I lost them in the park, I think." He says, "Well, then why are you looking over here?" He said, "Well, because that's where the light is." We can't keep treating our budget that way where we only keep doing the same thing over and over because that's what we've done, right? So when we want to start thinking about our priorities, we want to start thinking about, is this even the right amount of money? Who says that 15,000 is what we need to spend on a books at Chapag? Maybe it's 14,000. Maybe it's 18,000.
So
But we
this
have to have these
position-
conversations, right? That's the
this
important part of the
position
process.
This position is a necessity or not a necessity? Or is it something board members want to add because they feel there's a necessity? So from your vantage point, you're saying this is not a necessity.
I'm saying that it's not a necessity. It would be nice to have for sure. But could we get by? Yes, we could. And we always do that. We're masters at being able to do more with less. That's what we do in public education. But
Now, so what's the worst thing that could happen if we don't approve this? From your vantage point, what disadvantages are there for the
so, I mean, I think the disadvantages are that there may be more need for the principal and their staff at Washington to maybe work with problematic behavior. But again, they're making gains in that direction, and kids do. They grow a lot between second and third grade. They grow a lot between first and second grade. So they continue to get more mature. Our kids have made tremendous gains. I mean, it's almost astounding how fast they're recovering the losses in COVID. And that's true in our local context. It's true in the kids across the state and the kids across the country. So our kids are remarkably resilient, probably more so than we ever would have imagined. I think we could certainly get by at that class size, but I mean, again, if the board is more than willing to say, hey, we can do this for another year and we want to revisit it next year, that's fine. What I would say is that 1 year from now, we should also again have the conversation that, we should be prudent in the way that we're using money. And I don't think that it's wise to just keep doing things when the only answer is because that's what we've always done. And so I think we can do better as a system in terms of going back and really being, I think, clear-eyed about the things that we're looking to add into budgets. That's all.
Angela.
I just want to just understand or explain to you my understanding is it's not because of a class size. It was just because there's 22 kids and the national recommended average is 22 to 25 kids, then I would be fine saying, well, it's 22 kids and that's okay and they can handle it. But it's because of COVID
that these kids came in at a disadvantage. And if they came in at a disadvantage for learning and a disadvantage socially, as much as, yes, kids do rebound and kids do, thankfully learn from other kids, we're putting those kids at a disadvantage. And one more year of a teacher and then revisit it to give those kids not the disadvantage to have them, they're behind in 3rd grade, they're behind in 4th grade, they're behind in high school, they're behind getting into a college, they're behind as adults. It's not worth it. It is worth giving them that 1 year and then revisiting it to get them from, a -2 up to a level playing field with all of the rest of the kids.
Well, I will tell you this, I never remember the board in my 21 years revisiting anything and removing it or lowering it.
We'll revisit it again this year. And I really think, as much as you can say statistically and COVID, the best barometer of what those kids need and how they're doing is Emily Judd. And if she says, listen, we probably could do it, but having a teacher would put us over, where we need to be. That's good enough for me, because she and that teacher that's in that classroom, they're the ones who know. And we trust our kids to Emily Judd, the teacher, and I apologize, I don't know her name. So we need to trust her opinion. And and I think that all of our teachers and all of our school principals, at least my experience, always on the elementary school level has been, if they don't need it, they're going to tell you they don't need it. But she's telling you, yeah, we need it. It's going to help. It's going to help our kids. And I don't want to, give kids that class or any class, not the advantage that every other kid had. When we were looking to, I think, shut down Burnham, my son stood up there talking about his 2 little brothers and said, don't give them less than you gave me. I'm not willing to give that 2nd or 3rd grade class less than we're giving in every other class. And we'll revisit in a year. And Mrs. Jones will go, what? I did it. These kids are right where they're supposed to be. Great.
Thank you for saying that.
There's a good case for
And I think that.
Was that due to the budget? 100,000 pushes it.
But I also think that when you first or classrooms, getting them to come next year to report where they're at, instead of just saying, we think they're ready. I'd like a little bit more than that. So next year, when we're deciding this again, I would love to hear a report from Emily Judd telling us how ready they are. And then we can move on and make the decision. That I think that we do have to remember that COVID has been a huge issue that we've had to, the students have to deal with. And I think giving that year is important.
Okay, I'd like to hear the hard number as far as how much this is going to increase the budget by. In my calculations, it's going to push it over 5%.
Justin.
I think there's a fundamental difference between some of the board members here. Some of us see numbers. I see humans. Not to say that you don't, but I'm just what I'm hearing is that from other board members, this extra FTE is going to benefit a small number of children. That's all I need to know. That's it. And I think we're forgetting that when we're focusing on numbers. So it's always going to be, my decision-making in this process, as I've been reading over this budget and talking with people, what is in the best interest of kids, not, I'm worried that this is going to increase my taxes $17 or whatever it may be. Again, I'm always going to stand with something that benefits kids, even if it's only 0.5% of our student population.
Years too. Board members sit here and promulgate their position on a variety of issues, and they always say, well, it's good for the kids, we need it for kids. I don't deny it. And it's not a big number, so I'm not denying the number. the validity of it is what's important.
Mhm.
Does it possess validity?
It sounds like there's a need and
So that's how I'm looking at it. Not as a monetary issue,
Right.
because we have a $23 million budget, and we're talking about $150,000. And yes, why, it is a lot of money, and
140.
and I know we are always worried about it going far on percentage wise. The question is the need. I think the critical issue is, do we really need it? And that's what bothers me. The superintendent didn't seem to lean in that direction. Right? In a sense, you're not leaning in that direction. You'll accept it, but it isn't an issue to you where we don't need it.
We develop a budget to try to meet. I know. We developed a budget to meet a wide variety of needs, as you know, and we're trying to balance the new programs that we like to bring into the district as well. And so understanding that that infinite expansion isn't an option, we're always looking to look at those trade-offs. And if that was a opportunity for us to say we have a group who's almost there with a little bit of push and maybe a little bit of support, maybe even a smaller expenditure, so maybe a paraprofessional rather than another teacher, that might free up the money to introduce Spanish, to unwind the multi-age, to add the teacher at the high school. That's the game that we have to try to play as we try to balance all of these competing needs. So that was one where I was willing to say, I think we could, it's going to be a little bit of a stretch, but I think we probably could have, gotten by. Are we happy to have the extra, FTE? Of course.
But from your vantage point, would you do it if money wasn't the issue?
I mean, I don't know that I could say if money wasn't the issue, what I would do at this point. I mean, again, I don't know if we have a treasure trove of data saying these kids are suffering and that, they're not doing great things, they're not making gains. So, I think we'd have to explore it further. I think we'd have to really talk about it. What would be the metrics to measure the need, and then how we know when that need is met, and then how do we know when it's time to move past this?
It's obvious to me that there are more votes sitting right here for it right now than against it.
Well, why don't we vote?
Well, it's obvious to me. that there's
Well, we
more
still have to
votes.
do it for,
I understand.
for giggles. So can we vote? Does anyone else have anything else that they want to share? Okay, all in favor of adding the teacher for 1 year for the second grade at Washington Primary School? Say
Yeah, I would
aye.
do that.
Aye.
That's 1, 2, 3, 6, 9.
Is Jane's hand up?
That's a gift.
Jane,
Jane and Stephanie.
Jane and Stephanie, did you get them, Danielle? Julie too?
No, not Jane.
Jane said no.
I don't know.
Jane didn't say that.
But we have to have her
We
say
need to
yes.
know.
Oh, there's
Okay.
Julie, are you a thumbs up or a thumbs down?
I'm a thumbs down.
You're a thumbs down?
All right. Jane Sargent. Jane Sargent. put up
You're a thumbs down?
up-
Okay.
Up or down.
Stephanie?
You're Stephanie, a thumbs up.
Jane, up or down?
I Julie's down.
Stephanie.
Stephanie.
You're frozen.
Jane is up.
And Stephanie?
We have no votes to beat it.
And
No, she.
Stephanie, you're.
I don't know if you can not see me,
Yeah, thumbs
but
up.
I'm thumbs up.
Didn't have enough votes.
So it passed.
Even
Yes,
if I voted
okay.
the other way.
Sometimes, not today.
Yeah,
Right.
you didn't come here.
More comments?
I don't know.
Yes, yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, and Maze.
Oh, I'm sorry. Nays, I apologize. Thank you.
So Maze
So nays. 1, 2,
and
and
Julie.
Julie. is a
Thank
nay.
you, I'm sorry.
Thank you, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to just miss that. Okay. Justin.
So earlier tonight, can you hear, Ben, am I on? Can you hear? Am I good? Okay. So earlier tonight, Ms. Harbison and Ms. Hines treated some of the board members to a preview of the Lightning Thief.
Lightning thief.
Sorry. It was great. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's nice to get out and see these productions. in light of that, there are a couple of things that are of a concern to me in the budget. You know, this is obviously a high school music program or, you know, theater program that we're talking about. I'm looking at the line items for equipment for Burnham's musical program, Booth's musical program, and Washington Primary. For as far as like equipment, total number for all three schools is $38 for all three schools, and I believe that's $38 going to Burnham. So that means that, excuse me, Washington Primary and Booth have $0 for musical equipment, while Burnham gets $38. I don't understand how you run a musical program with $38. I don't understand how we, you know, create the love of music and arts, and performing, you know, giving a kid an outlet who may not be the most, you know, let's say academically gifted, but maybe music is their passion. I'm concerned that we're not giving those students a chance. And then at the high school level, I don't know how we, you know, we're not creating a feeder program for the arts. So I guess in short, I think that we should add more to that part of the budget. I don't like to see music and the arts cut. Oh, in addition, the art supply budget is also incredibly low as well. And you know, I think we're, you know, for those of you who don't know, I've been a teacher for 20 years, and teachers are not going to complain to the higher ups. Teachers, you know, we're used to being defunded constantly, and doing as much as we can with as little as we have. My concern is that cuts like these to the arts are going to lower morale of staff, which again, it's a big concern. It's a very real concern. So
I don't really know what my question is, that's my comment.
Can I just speak to your concern?
Sure.
So we funded everything that the teachers asked for. So I can't delve into. We didn't make any cuts at the central office level or at the principal level. I don't think that there's a lot of equipment actually used in the elementary music departments. Last year, there was a special request for $1,400 for a music cart, which was funded. So it looks like the budget fell by $1,400, but it's because we don't need the cart again. So I can't speak on the academic side as to what they use for their programs, but I can tell you that we didn't defund anyone.
I mean, optically, I'm just looking at this and it looks terrible. So that was my first thought. So, I mean, is there a way for us to see what they ask for, or if they're?
So I have the sheets that they come in. The principals bring in sheets for every line item in their budget. And one of them is music supplies and music equipment. And you can see what's on them. Yes, we have the detail. There's nothing that was asked for that wasn't granted.
Okay, I mean, I guess it's just shocked that that's what we have. So.
And maybe have the music teachers come talk to the board about what they do and how they do it.
That would be great. I mean, I'm just wondering if they're afraid to, you know, speak up. So, I mean, I know, I would love to hear from them.
Anybody else have any comments, questions?
Alex made the motion to amend.
Second.
Very second. Alex motion to amend. Now we need to vote on the amended budget, the which is 2.26.
The budget with the amendment, that the budget to 5, the application of agriculture revenue is applied.
Okay. So then, all in favor of the amended new
And I
budget?
couldn't hear what the
Raise your hand,
amendment
please.
was.
Do we have everybody and Stephanie?
I couldn't hear what the proposed amendment was.
Jane, raise your hand if you're for the budget.
John,
Yes.
Yes, Jane, just raise your hand.
Okay.
I
so
can't hear what
we
I'm
are-
voting for.
So right now,
We
taking
are-
a vote on the motion
On the motion,
to adopt the budget as recommended by the superintendent, including an amendment that would bring the budget to 5.26 increase over last year after the application of agricultural revenue is applied to the budget. So the motion is to approve the budget at a 5.26 increase after ag revenue is applied.
Thank you.
So
Raise your hand again
Are you in favor?
in
Are
favor
you-
of the budget as it's been amended. Jane, raise your hand. Jane's raising her hand too. And what about Julie? Julie's on there too somewhere.
No, I'm a no.
I see. Julie, raise your hand if you're for it,
I would just,
up or down.
I would just, if you're approving it. If
you're
you're
Down.
approving it. All right, so,
All
right, so,
That are not
that-
for it,
not,
raise the nays, thank you.
thank you.
And Julie,
Danielle, you have one?
Yeah, you have that.
Okay. And anybody abstaining?
Anybody
No one's here? Okay,
Everyone's here?
now
Okay,
we can adjourn. Is that correct?
Well, no, wait, don't we have to-
I'm really bad at this. Really bad at this. Greg has to leave me for the most
Greg has
complicated.
to lead me complicated one.
Which one?
Annual-
So we're doing
For May 1st, 2023,
2023,
possible
three
referendum
and a
date of May.
possible day.
and provide to that, that if that is approved, enter what's called the quiet period.
All right, so if that's approved, then we enter what's called the quiet period. And so once that budget once we move that budget off of here and onto the potential for referendum, we're not allowed to expend any district funds to market the budget, right? So, I mean, I would say interpret that pretty stringently in terms of what constitutes district funds, right? So that means that, use of email that we pay for, those types of things. So really, the ask is that at this point, we no longer go out to try to either oppose or support the budget, and we let people have the time to do that discernment during the quiet period between now and that referendum date.
but can we send out information about the budget?
So
About what it is and how much it's going up,
I
and
would
any of that information?
I would say that that's probably getting pretty close to a gray area, because what's the difference between sending out information and trying to advertise the budget? I would say that a better way to think about that is you can respond to questions or queries with facts or information about the budget. So if someone says to you, Mary, what's the budget going up? You can say it's 5.26. Where is that going? It's going in these places. Like, that would be acceptable, but marketing the budget, which again, sending out a hey, FYI kind of thing, would probably be constituted as marketing.
Right, so we always did that though. As far as I remember, we always put how much, the information about
So-
how much the budget was
We'll put
going up
out-
to each and
Yeah,
every
we
house.
typically put out just an informational placard, right, that has that information and also has information about the referendum. But that's about as far as we'll go in terms of what's allowable during the quiet period.
Appreciate that. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Anyone? What? Well, I think Danielle is too. I think we're all.
Is this to adjourn? Is that what you
Now we
said?
get to adjourn meeting.
Oh.
Yep. She want to say something? No, she just good. Okay.
Jane, did you
No,
raise
she
your
just
hand?
good. Okay.
Yes.
Now we have another meeting. Sweet. Everyone want to take a 5-minute break? Or Pete? No, I think he needs to talk to his wife though. Please don't talk to her. Oh my God, Alex. Thank you. At all, actually. It was not intentional at all. Is it connection or is it the, because I turned up the volume up.
Connection, ever since you're working.
Well, it's the computer you guys do. So what's up?
Can I just take that one out there?
I don't care. It's really fine. Totally fine. Jess. Jess.
No, my wife is, my wife. My wife. So. A friend of ours was a physician, and he said, take her to. The idea was to get her back to a point where they send her to. Yeah. So, my wife has been a very compressed.
This is that part that right red, right? So really the music budget actually didn't, it actually went up. Taken it away. It went up a little bit.
Kind of like the same thing with the curriculum.
Another microphone thing?
Yeah, so actually that's the one I can show you.
That's the same idea, right?
So you kind of see what you asked, what you asked. And you're like, oh, this is professional. So I'm thinking of the word. So let's look by saying, so her summer curriculum. She doesn't tell me, she just told me, that's what she asked me, that's what she gave me.
Okay.
So I can't, like.
No, because that's the thing with I'm sure it's how you're.
Yeah, so like, if Teresa comes in, she has what I call the main list, she doesn't use lines of anybody. If she comes in, she says, this is what I need, and I give it to her, we don't look at it again.
Okay.
You know, as the director, she figured out, she could cut that line. This line that she cut by 5,600, that you're talking about.
Okay.
So that line, I can say, okay, what's under B1?
So
We look at B1.
right now we're at a point
that
where
number.
she was supposed to
You
go
know, this
to
actual
another place in the building.
It's in.
I thought this was gonna be the.
So this SBS schedule came out, this 5,000 issues implementation.
Okay.
So that's how we
So
kind of figure out what's going on in the budget. So there's one of these for every one of those basic things. I don't. So.
So technically.
We have a shared drive for the district for department budgets that I manage, so here's our 23-24
Okay. We're back. Hopefully, no promises that this will be a easier run meeting for me, but we'll certainly try. I don't know.
We have enough one?
Yes, there's a whole other meeting here. So
All right.
this is the regular meeting. Call to order. We'll do a quick roll call since we had a little break. Yes? Yeah, go for it, Danielle. It'd be amazing.
Joe. John.
Here.
Greg is not here. Stephanie.
Me is.
I don't see
She here?
her. I think she's on break. I mean, she's here.
She's here.
So
Yeah.
yes. Angela. Alex. Justin. Jennifer.
Here.
Jane is.
Jane's here. Well,
still
Jean's
there.
here.
Julie is
Did you?
not on anymore.
Well, she's probably at the beach. Good for her.
Mhm. Gotcha. Pete and Mary.
Okay, thank you. Public comment on the agenda? Anyone? Anyone? No? Fantastic. No, fantastic. Okay, consent agenda. So we have 3 minutes for 3 meetings, is that correct? Yikes. Okay, motion? John?
I have something on the minutes
Yeah.
of the 227.
Okay,
Just pulling it up.
227.
227, sorry. In the treasurer's report, second paragraph. I shared revenue of 1,420,000 with out-of-district population of 120. That's the agri-science population. That should be 102, as
okay,
far as I know.
thank you. So do we have to do the amendment to that one, or are we just gonna?
We can't vote on that.
Till they present it for the next one. So then we'll just do it for the March 6th meeting, special meeting and the regular meeting? Yes? So moved? Seconded? Anyone?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Anyone opposed?
Could have voted on the other one as amended.
We'll just move on to that for the next time. That's fine. Reports and recognitions, board chair, I did not prepare since I was told.
We just approve all the minutes.
We approved March 6th. We're not going to approve the 27th of February.
Why not?
I thought we just said that if we amended it, didn't you just say we'd have to come back and do it again?
And vote on it.
Okay. So do you want, so can we do that for the next meeting? Yes.
The meetings, the minutes of 27th?
Yeah.
That John just wanted to amend?
Yeah.
So then there would have to be the amendment, you'd have to vote on that, but then you'd have to see what the minutes look like with the amendment. I mean, if you want, it's up to you, you can vote on it now, but it typically is done after you get that marked up new version.
So that's why we're voting on just the March 6th special meeting, the special meeting and the regular meeting. So that's what we voted on and then approved, and then we'll wait for the 27th at the next meeting with the amendment. Okay, great. All right, board chair report. I don't have one, because like I said, I was not prepared. You're up.
All right, let me unmute. Actually remembered. Speed things along here. Lots going on in our schools since our last meeting. All right, I'm good. So first and foremost, I want to just express my thanks and
what a joy it was to be invited to judge at all 3 schools for their invention conventions. We saw some incredible inventions from our elementary students, and we have 2 students moving on to the statewide competition from each of our schools. So congratulations to all those kids that are moving on, and to all the ones who worked really hard, who just narrowly missed the cut. There were some really unique ideas, and that was a lot of fun. Over at Chippewa, lots going on. Our boys basketball team reached the state finals where we lost a tough game to Windsor Locks. They played a really smart and tough basketball game. If you've seen them play it all this year, you would be astounded at how much they improved in the last couple of weeks down the end of the season. And so to play through that tournament, make it to the finals is remarkable. So we want to congratulate them on a great season. In related news, spring sports, believe it or not, are already up and going. There's like no downtime whatsoever. And so scrimmages are underway, as well as practices and getting ready for the season. All of our sports officially kick off either April 1st or shortly thereafter. So spring sports are already well underway. I also want to share that some of us at the district, in fact, Jen was with me, had the opportunity to travel out to Rocky Hill last week for a special awards banquet from the Connecticut Association of Athletic Directors, where they honored our own athletic director, Matt Paracci, with his Distinguished Service Award. And that's a really big deal. They only give out one of these a year to a athletic director from across the state of Connecticut. And so it was, I think, a real honor for Matt. And I think we're lucky to have such a dedicated and professional athletic director who really emphasizes, in my mind, the student and student athlete. And I think that's really important. And if you ever heard his pregame speech, you would know how important it is for him to kind of keep it all in the right perspective. So we're really proud of Matt, and we're really excited that we have such a great and distinguished athletic director. I also want to share with folks, in case you haven't heard, that our belted Galloway heifer, Peppermint Patty, gave birth to a happy and healthy calf. And her name is Peaches. The students had a vote, and that was the name that they gave her. Although I got to tell you, if you ever saw her running around, I would have called her Turbo because she is fast. But Peaches was the winner. And I know Junior Mint was another popular one amongst many people in the community, but the kids picked Peaches. And it's a cute name, and she's a wonderful calf too. She has got her mom's personality, and she's sweet, and she's gonna be a lot of fun for years to come. I also want to just remind folks, if you're joining us from home or have lingered in the audience here, that the Chippewa Dramatics has been hard at work on an upcoming performance of a play based on the Percy Jackson series, which is a really popular book series for kids. It's called The Lightning Thief. And opening night is just a few days away, and we're really excited to have you join us. We have 3 shows this weekend. We have evening performances, Friday and Saturday nights. Those are both at 7:00 p.m. here at Chippewa. And then we have a Sunday matinee at 1:00. So great family fun. Come on out. We had a little preview before the meeting of the opening sequence, and it was amazing. The singing and the dancing was a lot of fun. And so if the rest of the play is nearly as good, you're in for a treat. In other district news, I want to share that in our response, or in our efforts, I think, to continue to focus on teaching and learning and moving the district forward, that we are introducing a district data team, and we are kicking off next week with our first meeting with representatives from each school to look at district data in multiple sources, not just student learning data, but also attendance data, perceptual data, data surrounding kids' behavior. And that's going to be something that's going to guide our work as we move ahead. As you've heard in the past, we also got a grant from EdAdvance that they had written with the U.S. Department of Education to support mental health needs of our students. And so as part of that, Region 12 is receiving 2 full-time mental health professionals. They might be social workers or school counselors that will be divided amongst our 4 buildings. And we'll have those for the next 5 years, all paid for out of this grant. So in order to move that forward, we'll be interviewing candidates along with some representatives from EdAdvance. They've had almost 20 applicants come out for these various positions. Well, more than that, they've winnowed it down to about 20 through pre-screening and interviews that they've already done. And so now it's time for us to see if these folks really are a good fit for us here locally. So we're really excited about that. And I think that's one of the very best ways to, again, address some of the needs. And we heard a little bit about this earlier tonight, that kids are still bringing with them coming out of COVID. So we're grateful for that. So that's the bulk of my updates. And then back to the agenda. Let me just go through the other parts of the report to share here with the board. Hold on, my computer is kind of glitching on me. All right, that'd be perfect. Thank you. So in personnel, we have 2 new appointments. Brendan Rourke has been hired on. He had been working as a part-time custodian. He will be joining us full-time at Washington Primary School. And we also have Jenna Williams, who is both being appointed and resigning at the same time. She's resigning as a literacy tutor at Booth to pursue her dream of working toward becoming a teacher. So she's going to join us as an elementary sub over at Booth Free School. And so we're really excited to have Jenna on board. And then with some of the movement of our custodial staff, Ken Martin, who's been working over at Chippewa Valley School, or will come to Chippewa Valley School, and he's primarily been working over at Washington Primary School. And so he'll be a great addition to the team over at Chippewa. And then just to notify the board, we have 2 field trips that are coming up. We have a trip to the Great East Music Festival at Six Flags in Agawam. That's on May 5th for our students in grades 9 through 12. And that's a great festival. If you ever get out to that, it's definitely worth going. There's teams come from all over New England to compete in a music festival there. It's one of the best in, I think, the Northeast. And then our FFA chapter officers have a meeting at Ledyard High School out on the Eastern Seaboard, and that'll be on August 22nd at, and that'll be grades 10 through 12. So just want the board to be apprised of those trips. And with that, that concludes my report.
Great. Thank you very much. I actually would like to just take a minute to thank Mark for a wonderful, it's Board Appreciation Month, I guess. And he organized and planned this a wonderful event for us prior to our meeting tonight, where we had an amazing dinner and show, the Lightning Thief. We had a little bit of a preview for of that, and it was amazing. And we have such amazingly talented and the students, the talented students. And then we had the a nice little duo of the clarinet and the flute from Mr. O and I think Gabby. So that was really wonderful. And then we had the most amazing meal from the AgriScience Kitchen students, made us the most delicious local meal with the kale that was grown in the greenhouse. And then this most amazing short rib meal. It was amazing. So we were very lucky, and thank you very much, Mark, for treating us to such a lovely evening. It was a really great idea. Loved it.
Thank you. We really do appreciate all the work that you do. I know that it's a very high paying job, but you know, other than the big salary, you know, the time that you guys and the energy put in is fantastic. So thank you for all that you do. And that was just a joke for those at home. There is no compensation for being on a board, but we appreciate them nonetheless.
Thank you. Okay. Next up is the, are we doing the treasurer's report? Or are we going to do the field trip notifications? Did you do that? Thank you. Treasurer's report. John?
After all this talk this evening about next year's budget, I do have a few things to say about this current budget. And I know you don't have the line items in front of you, but just to highlight, there were 6 ledger lines in negative territory, 3 of which were very negligible. And half of those happened to be in the 100 personnel salaries account lines. Specifically, line 117 clerical, they're in negative 0.38% or $3,224. That has a total budget of $822,000, however. Line 118 custodial minus 2%. That's $16,419 over budget because of there was a retiree, and the clerical was a retiree who had to be trained, and the custodial was unforeseen maintenance issues. Line 123, computer tech, minus 3.68 or $10,787 resulting from an increase in employees' hours. The director of finance will be moving money into these accounts from budget lines that remain significantly under budget. Line 123, this is interesting because it's the food service payroll where the food service person retired in December. So there's going to be a significant balance in that line. I think it was over like 23,000, but Nicole is going to be moving $16,549 from that food service line to line 730. It's instructional equipment, and what that is the Connecticut Interscholastic Athletic Conference has a mandate. It's an unfunded mandate relating to shot clocks and scoreboard in our gym. So that money is going to be moved out of the food service to supplement the cost of the unexpected improvements to the shot clock and the scoreboard. Going into the final quarter, the 2022-23 budget is in excellent shape with 17.85% remaining and a budget balance of $4,429,000. So there should be a pretty healthy balance when we finish. Just judging from the comments and things tonight at the 2 minutes to midnight, and we're moving 150,000, adding that to the budget and that, I would say that maybe next year we should all take a hard look, whoever's still on the board, at becoming more involved in the process long before, it comes time for a vote. And that goes for the public too. I mean, this is everyone's budget. So I don't know. I just think that we could avoid a lot of second guessing by, getting more involved in the process. Thanks.
Committee reports. Curriculum?
Nothing new to report. Our meeting for today has been postponed to April 17th at 6 p.m. here.
I attended the March 2nd Board of Directors Zoom meeting. During that meeting, it was told to us that Ed Advance held a press event on February 21st for the school-based mental health grant, which resulted in an article in the Register Citizen, which appeared on February 23rd. In that article, they reported about how many recruitments they have seen so far, which is about a dozen. They're planning on 20 more interviews. Applicants for the positions are coming from the private sector as well as new CCSU graduates. Also, they announced that Dr. Judy Palmer, who is the current Region 7 superintendent, will be the director of the social, emotional, and mental health services at Ed Advance. She starts at the end of this school year. Also, construction and renovations are slated to start soon at both of the Torrington properties that they have picked up over the winter. And another note is they're still trying to recruit drivers for the transportation department, and they've decided to use a new marketing campaign, which is at the gas station, the little screens that you see at the pump. That's the company they're using. So that's all I have for now.
Thanks, Joe. Finance and operations, Alex?
I have nothing to really add. Worked on the budget all week.
Well, thank you for doing that.
Long-range planning, Julie, do you have anything to report? I think she's long gone. So,
We will be meeting shortly to revisit that and meeting with Dr. Lemons.
Lemons.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. And old business.
But
So,
Mark, Mark, what we usually do, if there's anything that can be refurbished and sent to school systems that could use it, that we do that. If not, then we dispose of it.
Yeah, and this is not that stuff. This is
Okay.